I always believed I had a good marriage. Maybe not perfect, but strong. Lisa and I had been together for 12 years, married for 8, and had built a life that, from the outside, looked almost ideal. I worked in IT consulting, a job that often required travel, and Lisa was a freelance graphic designer who worked from home. We had met in college, fallen hard for each other, and despite the usual ups and downs, we had weathered every storm together, or so I thought. Looking back, there were signs. Tiny, insignificant details that I had brushed off as nothing. Her phone always face down, her late-night work projects that seemed to stretch longer than they should, the way she sometimes seemed distracted when I talked to her. But I never suspected anything serious. Lisa was beautiful, charming, and full of life. She had always been the more social one in our relationship, always surrounded by friends. I trusted her completely. I never imagined that the woman I had loved for over a decade was capable of such deception. Our life was built on routine. Mornings started with coffee together, often filled with casual conversation about work, news, or plans for the weekend. I usually left for the office or caught an early flight, and she'd settle in for her day of designing logos, web pages, and social media graphics for clients. In the evenings, when I was home, we'd have dinner together, sometimes takeout, sometimes a home-cooked meal. We'd watch a show, laugh, talk about future plans. We had even started discussing having kids, though Lisa had been hesitant, saying she wanted to focus on her career a bit longer. I had agreed, thinking we had all the time in the world. Then there was Ryan, our closest friend. Ryan had been in our lives for nearly as long as we had been together. He was my best friend, someone I considered a brother. We'd met in college, worked at the same company for a few years, and though he had moved on to a different firm, we still saw each other regularly. Ryan was charming, funny, and always the life of the party. He had a way of making people feel comfortable around him, and Lisa had always liked him. In fact, they had a playful dynamic, one that I never questioned because I trusted them both. I had even joked about how Ryan was like an older brother to Lisa, someone who always had our backs. I had never been the jealous type. If Lisa went out with friends, I never questioned her. If she was texting someone, I didn't feel the need to check. I believed that trust was the foundation of our marriage. But in the weeks leading up to my discovery, things started to shift in ways I couldn't ignore. Lisa had become more distant. Our conversations felt shorter, her responses more mechanical. She used to laugh at my jokes, engage in deep conversations about life, and share random thoughts about things she found interesting. But now, she seemed distracted, like she was somewhere else entirely. One night, I walked into the bedroom and saw her quickly hiding her phone under the pillow. "Who are you texting?" I asked playfully, not even suspecting anything serious. She froze for a second, then forced a laugh. "Just a client. Work stuff." I didn't think much of it, but a part of me, the part that had begun noticing the subtle changes in her behavior, started to whisper that something wasn't right. Another time, I came home early from a work trip, surprising her. When I walked through the door, I saw her sitting on the couch, her laptop open, a startled expression on her face. She quickly closed the screen and smiled. "You're home early," she said, standing up and hugging me. I didn't ask what she had been looking at. Maybe I should have. The biggest red flag came when she missed our anniversary dinner. Lisa, who had always been the one to plan these special occasions, suddenly claimed she had a last-minute work emergency. I had been disappointed but didn't want to pressure her. That night, while eating alone at the restaurant we had reserved weeks in advance, I felt the first real sting of doubt. Was she really working late? Or was there someone else? The thought felt ridiculous at first. Lisa and I had been together for years. She loved me. She wouldn't betray me like that. But something inside me had shifted. The trust one had so blindly given her now felt fragile. And for the first time in our marriage, I had the sinking feeling that I needed to start paying attention. As I sat in the dimly lit restaurant, staring at my untouched steak, I realized something unsettling. I didn't know my wife as well as I thought I did. After that missed anniversary dinner, my suspicions refused to die down. They clung to me, whispering doubts into my mind, making me replay every strange moment I had overlooked before. But I wasn't the kind of person to act on impulse. I wanted proof, something real, not just a gut feeling. Lisa didn't change overnight, but I started noticing things I had ignored before. She was on her phone more, always texting someone but never sharing who it was. She started taking more girls' nights out, but when I casually asked who she went out with, her answers were vague. One night, as we lay in bed, she got a text. The screen lit up for just a second, but I caught a name I didn't recognize. "Who's Mark?" I asked, keeping my voice light. Lisa shifted slightly, locking her phone before answering. "Oh, he's a new client. Needs a logo for his startup. Kind of a nightmare to deal with, honestly." I nodded, pretending to believe her. But something about the way she avoided my eyes made my stomach twist. The turning point came when Ryan and I went out for drinks one evening. It was just like old times, laughing, catching up, talking about life. But something about him felt off. He seemed tense, like he was forcing himself to act normal. "Lisa's been busy lately, huh?" I said, testing the waters. Ryan took a long sip of his beer before answering. "Yeah, man, freelance life, right?" He let out an awkward chuckle. It was the way he said it, the hesitation, the forced casualness. Ryan, who had always been confident and easygoing, seemed nervous. I let it go for the moment, but my instinct screamed at me that something wasn't right. That night, after Lisa had fallen asleep, I made a decision I never thought I would. I checked her phone. I felt sick even doing it. I had always believed that trust was the foundation of a good relationship, but my trust had been cracking for weeks now, and I needed to know the truth. Her phone was locked, of course, but I knew Lisa's passcode. It was the same one she had always used. I hesitated for a moment, then I unlocked it. The first thing I checked was her messages. Nothing unusual. A few work conversations, a group chat with her friends, a couple of texts from me. But then I opened her email, and that's where I found it. A thread of deleted emails in her trash folder. Messages from an email I didn't recognize, signed M. My hands trembled as I read through them. "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing. I miss you already. Wish I could be in your arms right now. He doesn't suspect a thing, but I still get paranoid. Be careful." I felt my chest tighten, my heartbeat thudding in my ears. I wasn't prepared for this. I had suspected something was wrong, but seeing the proof, undeniable, cold, in my hands, was like having the air ripped from my lungs. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at the screen, hoping, praying that I was misunderstanding something, that there was a rational explanation. But there wasn't. I scrolled down, and that's when I saw the date on the earliest email. 3 years ago. 3 years. I felt my stomach drop. My hands clenched into fists. She hadn't just made a mistake or had a brief lapse in judgment. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment affair. She had been living a double life for 3 damn years. I had been working late nights, planning vacations, talking about starting a family, while she was sneaking around behind my back. I wanted to wake her up right then and there, to scream, to demand answers. But I didn't. Instead, I sat in the dark, numb, shaking, barely breathing. I thought about the emails. She had said, "He doesn't suspect a thing." She had been mocking me. For the next few days, I kept my silence. I needed more proof, something undeniable. I needed to know who this man was. I started watching her more closely. She had always been careful, but now that I knew what to look for, the signs were everywhere. The way she smiled at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. The sudden work emergencies. The way she avoided intimacy with me, making excuses, saying she was tired or stressed. I checked our shared bank account and found suspicious transactions, hotel bookings, expensive restaurant bills, charges from stores she never shopped at with me. Then, one evening, I got the break I needed. Lisa had left her laptop open when she went to take a shower. I hesitated for only a second before sitting down. I opened her messages, and there it was, her chat with Mark. Mark wasn't a client. Mark was the man she had been sleeping with for years. I scrolled through their messages, my stomach twisting with every word. "I'll tell him soon. I just need the right moment. I hate lying to him, but I can't stop. I love you. God, I miss you. Next weekend?" I felt physically sick. I clicked on the photos they had sent each other. And that's when I saw the picture. A photo of them together in a hotel room. Lisa, in the same lingerie she had worn for me once, posing for another man. That was it. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I closed the laptop, my hands shaking with rage. She had been planning to leave me. She had been lying to my face every single day while pretending to be my wife. I couldn't do this anymore. I needed to confront her, and I needed to see her reaction when she realized that her lies were finally over. I sat in the living room, staring at the dark screen of my phone. My hands trembled, my mind raced. The weight of everything I had uncovered crushed me, but now there was clarity. Lisa was a liar. Lisa was a cheater. Lisa had been playing me for years. And now, it was time for her to face the truth. I heard the water shut off in the bathroom. A minute later, Lisa stepped out, dressed in one of my shirts, drying her hair with a towel. She looked calm, relaxed, completely unaware that her world was about to come crashing down. I took a deep breath and forced my voice to stay steady. "Lisa," I said, looking up at her. "We need to talk." She hesitated for a second, just a second, but I caught it, a flicker of something in her eyes before she smiled. "Sure, babe. What's up?" I tossed my phone onto the table between us. She glanced at it, confused. "What's this?" "Go ahead," I said, my voice eerily calm. "Read." Lisa sat down, picked up the phone, and tapped the screen. As soon as she saw the email thread, her face paled. Her hand tightened around the phone, but she said nothing. I watched her, waiting. Nothing. No excuses. No immediate denial. Just silence. I leaned forward, my elbows on my knees. 3 years, Lisa, I whispered. 3 years. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. I could see the panic in her eyes, the way her mind was scrambling for a way out. "Say something," I demanded, my voice rising. "Explain this to me. Explain how you've been lying to my face for years." Lisa's breathing grew shallow. She set the phone down, wrapping her arms around herself. "Alex, I slammed my hand on the table. "Don't you dare say it was a mistake. Don't you dare tell me you were going to end it. Because I read everything." She flinched. "I never wanted to hurt you." I laughed bitterly. "Oh, that's rich. You didn't want to hurt me? Then what the hell do you call this?" Tears welled in her eyes. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did." I stood up, pacing. "No, Lisa. Affairs don't just happen. You made a choice. You made 1,000 choices to betray me, over and over again." Her hands shook as she wiped at her tears. "I was lonely, Alex. You were always gone. Work always came first, and I felt like I didn't matter to you anymore." I stopped dead in my tracks. "That's your excuse?" I said, my voice cold. "That I worked hard to provide for us? That I traveled for my job? The job that paid for this house, for everything we have?" She shook her head rapidly. "No, it's not about money. It's, who is he?" I cut her off. Lisa froze. I stepped closer. "Tell me his name." She opened her mouth, hesitated, and then whispered, "Mark." I nodded slowly. "Mark." "Right." I crossed my arms. "And tell me, Lisa, does Mark know that I know?" She swallowed hard. "No." That was all I needed to hear, because that meant I still had the upper hand. I exhaled slowly, forcing myself to remain composed. The anger still burned in my veins, but I had to be smart about this. "I want you out," I said flatly. Lisa's head snapped up. "What?" "You heard me." I gestured toward the bedroom. "Pack your things. I don't care where you go, but you're not staying here." She stared at me, mouth slightly open, as if she couldn't process the words. "Alex, please, we can talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about." I took a step back, my voice firm. "You made your choice. Now, you live with the consequences." Tears streamed down her face, but I felt nothing. No sympathy. No sadness. Just emptiness. Lisa shook her head, her expression turning desperate. "I don't love him, Alex." I laughed darkly. "You expect me to believe that?" "I swear," she cried. I was confused. You weren't confused for 3 years," I snapped. "You were just careful." Silence. I clenched my jaw, my next words measured, deliberate. I want a divorce. Lisa let out a strangled sob. Alex, no. Please. We can fix this. I shook my head. You can't fix something that's already dead. She tried to reach for me, but I stepped back. That's when I saw it. True panic in her eyes. She had thought she could manipulate her way out of this. She had thought she could beg, cry, and twist the situation to keep me under her control. But it wasn't going to work. Not anymore. I turned away, my heart pounding. You have until tomorrow to be gone. Lisa sank to her knees, sobbing. But I didn't care. She had made me the fool for years. But the game was over. And this time, she was the one left with nothing. I walked into the bedroom, my hands clenched into fists, my breath uneven. Lisa's sobs echoed from the living room, but I didn't turn back. I didn't care. Not anymore. The moment I saw those emails, something inside me broke beyond repair. The love, the trust, the future I thought we had. It was all a lie. I opened the closet, grabbed a suitcase, and tossed it onto the bed. Lisa appeared in the doorway, her face streaked with tears. Her shoulders shook as she clutched her arms, her eyes wide with raw desperation. Alex, please. Her voice was barely a whisper. I ignored her, opening the drawers and throwing her clothes into the suitcase. She stepped closer. I know I messed up, but I love you. I never wanted to lose you. I froze, then turned to her slowly. You love me? I repeated, my voice dripping with disbelief. She nodded frantically, stepping forward, as if she thought she still had a chance. Alex, I do. What we have is real. I let out a bitter laugh, cutting her off. Don't. Just don't. Lisa flinched, fresh tears welling in her eyes. You had 3 years to end it. 3 years to choose me, to tell me the truth. I shook my head. But you didn't. You chose him. Over and over again. She covered her mouth, her body trembling. I zipped the suitcase and shoved it into her arms. You need to go. She clutched the suitcase tightly, her face twisting in pure agony. Where am I supposed to go? She whispered. I shrugged coldly. Not my problem. Lisa let out a strangled sob. Alex, please. Don't do this. I met her gaze, my expression unwavering. You already did. Her knees buckled, and she sank onto the bed. I don't have anyone else. And there it was. The truth. She wasn't sorry she cheated. She was sorry she got caught. Sorry that the life she built with me, the security, the comfort, was about to vanish. And I felt nothing. No pity. No sadness. Just a deep, settled certainty that I was making the right choice. I turned away, pulling open my nightstand drawer. Inside, my wedding ring gleamed under the soft glow of the lamp. I picked it up, rolling it between my fingers. A symbol of promises that had meant nothing to her. Then, with a steady hand, I set it on the dresser and turned back to Lisa. Be gone by morning. And with that, I walked out of the room, leaving her alone with the wreckage she created. The next day, the morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a dull glow over the now silent house. I stepped into the living room, bracing myself. Lisa was gone. The suitcase was missing. The shoes she always left by the door gone. The faint scent of her perfume lingered in the air, but the space felt emptier. I should have felt relieved, but instead, I felt exhausted, like I had survived a storm that left nothing standing in its wake. I sat down on the couch, rubbing my temples. My body was sore, my mind numb. 3 years. 3 years of my life gone, wasted on someone who had never truly loved me. The betrayal cut deep, but there was something else beneath it. A sense of clarity. Lisa was out of my life. And now, I could finally start over. Later that evening, I sat on the back porch, a cold beer in my hand, staring out into the yard. The silence was deafening. For years, I had built my life around Lisa. Every decision, every sacrifice, it had all been for us. But now, I was alone. And strangely, that wasn't as terrifying as I thought it would be. My phone buzzed on the table beside me. I picked it up, my stomach clenching when I saw the name on the screen. Mark. I exhaled slowly, debating whether to answer. Then, with a steady hand, I swiped the screen. Hello? My voice was flat, emotionless. A tense pause. Then, a low sigh. Alex. I leaned back in my chair, my grip tightening around the bottle. So, you finally grew the balls to call me. Mark let out a breath. Look, man, I don't expect you to forgive me. I needed to say I'm sorry. I stared at the yard, my expression unreadable. Sorry. That word meant nothing to me anymore. Mark continued, his voice strained. Lisa told me you found out. I didn't want it to be like this. I never wanted to hurt you. I laughed coldly. Funny. That's exactly what Lisa said. Another pause. Then, Mark sighed. I get it. You hate me. You have every right to. But You still with her? I cut him off. Silence. Then, a hesitant. No. I smirked, shaking my head. Typical. Lisa had thrown everything away for him, and in the end, he didn't even want her. I took a slow sip of my beer. Well, I guess that makes two of us. Mark exhaled sharply. Look, man, if there's ever anything I can do to make this right, there isn't. Silence. I leaned forward, my voice cold and final. You made your choices, Mark, and now you get to live with them. Without waiting for a response, I hung up the phone and set it down beside me. I let out a slow breath, staring at the darkening sky. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. 1 week later, the house felt different, lighter. Lisa was gone, and with her, the tension, the constant doubt, the late nights staring at the ceiling wondering if something was wrong. For the first time in years, I could breathe. But that didn't mean the pain was gone. Some mornings, I still woke up and reached for her out of habit, only to be met with empty sheets. Some nights, I still expected to hear her footsteps in the hallway. Memories clung to the walls, the furniture, the spaces where she used to be. But I refused to let them haunt me. Instead, I focused on rebuilding, step by step, sorting through the past. The first thing I did was purge the house. Lisa's clothes, her jewelry, the anniversary gifts I had given her over the years. I packed them all into boxes. There were some things I couldn't throw away immediately. Old pictures, wedding albums. I wasn't ready to look at them, but I also wasn't going to let them sit out like ghosts of a life that no longer existed. I shoved them into the attic. Maybe one day I'd burn them, or maybe I'd forget they were even there. Either way, they weren't part of my life anymore. Filing for divorce. A few days after Lisa left, I met with a lawyer. It was surprisingly easy. Since we didn't have kids, and since I had more than enough evidence of her infidelity, the process would be straightforward. She wasn't entitled to a single cent. When I told Lisa, she barely protested. She had already lost everything. Her marriage, her reputation, and the man she threw it all away for. Mark had cut ties with her completely. She was staying in a motel, struggling to find a place to go. But I didn't feel bad for her. She had made her bed. Now, she had to lie in it, alone. New beginnings. One evening, I sat in my car outside a local bar. For years, I had avoided places like this, always thinking it was a waste of time. I had a wife to come home to, a future to focus on. Now, I had nothing but time. I stepped inside, letting the hum of conversation and soft music wash over me. I wasn't looking to meet someone new. I wasn't looking for revenge or a rebound. I just wanted to exist in a space where no one knew my story. I ordered a drink, leaned back, and let myself feel something other than anger for the first time in weeks. Maybe I wasn't healed yet, but at least I wasn't broken anymore. Lisa's final plea. 2 weeks after she left, Lisa showed up at my door. She looked awful. Her hair was messy, her clothes wrinkled, dark circles under her eyes. For the first time, she wasn't the polished, put-together woman I had loved. She was lost. Alex, she whispered. I didn't say a word. I just stared at her, waiting. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't have anywhere to go. A long silence stretched between us. Then, finally, I spoke. That's not my problem. She flinched. I know. I wanted to say I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I studied her face, searching for any sign of the woman I used to love. But all I saw was regret, not remorse. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry that she lost everything because of it. I exhaled slowly. Lisa, I spent years loving you, defending you, thinking you were my partner. She sniffled. I was. No. I cut her off. You weren't. A partner doesn't lie to your face for years. A partner doesn't cheat and pretend everything is fine. A partner fights for the relationship instead of destroying it from the inside. She covered her face with her hands. I was stupid. I was selfish. But I can change. Please, Alex. I just want another chance. I shook my head. I don't. A sharp gasp escaped her lips. She stared at me, as if she truly hadn't expected me to say that. I took a deep breath, my voice steady. You made your choice. Now, live with it. I stepped back and closed the door in her face. Her muffled sobs echoed through the wood, but I didn't hesitate. I walked away, and this time, I didn't look back. Moving forward, the day our divorce was finalized, I stood on the beach, watching the waves crash against the shore. For so long, I had let my past define me. Lisa's betrayal had nearly broken me, but I had survived. And now, I was free. I pulled my wedding ring from my pocket, rolling it between my fingers one last time. Then, with a deep breath, I threw it into the ocean. The past was gone, and the future? It was mine to create.